Anthology on the bad, short-lived, and forgotten television shows and events in TV history. You are listening to It Was a Thing on TV.
But Charles, your wish has been granted. The blue light means that you get, guess what? What? A second chance. Isn't that nice?
Episode 537, submission number 606. The New Odd Couple. The New Odd Couple aired on the ABC television network from October 29th, 1982 to May 26th, 1983 for 18 of the best half hours of early 80s television.
My ass, it was the best hours of 80s television.
Thank you, Greg. I wanted to say that you beat me to the punch, but you're not beating me to the punch for this one. 18 episodes is 2 more than a crock block, but 7 less than a reel-to-reel picture show.
And now here's a familiar, but at the same time different, theme song.
At least they actually used a variation of the original theme song, unlike New Monkeys.
Why'd you bring that up?
Because I want to remind everybody how New Monkeys broke all 3 of us.
He's not wrong. I thought after 2 years I'd get them finally out of my mind. But hey, let's go to something else that, well, can live on in my mind because it's not bad. There's other issues we could talk about.
We all know the story of the play by Neil Simon. Let me quote William Woodson one more time. On November 13th, Felix Unger was asked to remove himself from his place of residence. That request came from his wife. Deep down, he knew she was right, but he also knew that someday he would return to her. With nowhere else to go, he appeared at the home of his friend, Oscar Madison. Several years earlier, Madison's wife had thrown him out, requesting that he never return. Can 2 divorced men share an apartment without driving each other crazy? I think we have our answer. Yes, but it's very difficult. This was based on the 1965 play of the same name, followed by the 1968 film of the same name, with Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau. And after 5 seasons on ABC, we had sort of the archetype of what the Odd Couple could and should be, with Tony Randall as the neat freak Felix and Jack Klugman as the realist but slovenly Oscar. The 2 did reunite in 1993 for The Odd Couple Together Again, different from The Odd Couple 2, a theatrical release, similar in nature, that reunited Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau.
Now, hold on a minute. I should mention, with Jack Lemmon, Mike, we have recently seen Chris Lemmon on the Match Game 90 reruns on Buzzer. Jack's son on them, right?
I don't know where you're going, but lead me there.
Well, in 4 years, somebody should have told Chris that he'd one day be sharing a scene with the Jizzle Drizzle.
And well, Hulk Hogan, brother. Don't think that Drizzle Drizzle is the only star of the show. You can't forget about the Hulkster.
And your beer's crap!
And don't forget to buy real American beer, brother.
Boo!
Oh!
I'll be signing at different Giant Eagle locations all around the Midwest.
No, hold on. Giant Eagle is awesome.
No, they're not. They're expensive. But I'll sign those cases of beer for you for free as long as you don't sell them on eBay, even though that's the American way.
Boo!
Of course, eBay, where real Americans buy their beer.
Who buys their beer on eBay unless you're trying to buy like a 50-year-old bad Billy beer?
Look next to you on the video screen, not me, the other person. I bet you he buys beer on eBay.
I don't drink, okay?
Also, I do think that buying beer over state lines is illegal in some capacity, maybe for alcohol content, maybe for blue laws. But still, brother, buy that real American beer. Only $28 for a 12 pack, and I'll sign it to you.
Boo!
I'll put on there, to my favorite, it was a thing on TV listener, Hulk Hogan, brother.
Boo!
Here's what I got for you, brother.
Did we just introduce a new character? Hulk Hogan? No,
No.
no,
Boo!
boo, boo,
Boo!
please boo. Okay, okay,
Boo!
okay, enough booing. Now I'm wondering if I should introduce the other new character that's been on the table for the last couple of weeks.
Oh, who's the new character, Mike?
Ah, it's the British Wormy. I'm
Oh
taking
my
the
god!
tea. Ho, ho, ho.
But British Whammy doesn't talk.
You don't
Bends.
tell me what to do, you wanker.
All
Just
I'm
right,
now
British.
gonna take all your money.
All right, British Whammy. I have a question.
Yes.
What was with you humping the floor so much?
he was either doing the Humpty dance or he was twerking or breakdancing or pretend screwing your mom or something.
What I was doing was I was giving some to your mother. I was lying over her and I'm like, oh.
Oh my god, can we please talk about something else?
And I took not just her tea, but I took her virginity too. How I did that when she's your mother, I don't know, but I did it.
We've had Hulk Hogan and we've had the British Whammy hijack this show.
This was supposed to be a serious conversation about how one show was reinvented for the 1980s.
It's a
And
serious conversation about beer, brother.
Boo!
boo! Get off the stage! You're gonna kill the show!
Can we talk about root beer at least, brother? No booze. I like it.
Oh, did we mention
Boy, we
the
found. Wait. I gotta say, I love we found one thing we can universally agree on and not boo Hulk Hogan, and that's bringing up the topic of root beer.
Barks has bite, you know?
Barks is the shizzy. That is not an advertisement, even though the good folks at Barks, if you're listening, I'll gladly accept numerous 2 liters. And I'm sure Chico will gladly accept numerous 2 liters.
Oh
And
yeah.
Greg, I'm sure he'll take 12 packs of cans. I'm sure he doesn't want bottles. But, we love our Barks root beer around here.
They make the best floats, man.
And who could forget? They were the proud sponsors of those 3D glasses for that one episode of Third Rock from the Sun.
That's your takeaway. Okay. Enough about Hulk Hogan and the British Whammy. We need to talk about this reboot of a classic show, which had potential, but there's issues. Let's get into the legal sauce.
First of all, this was not the first Neil Simon play to be rebooted for a modern day audience. That would be Barefoot in the Park in 1970. For this new Odd Couple, we have as Felix Unger, straight off of his roles on Barney Miller, Ron Glass, and as Oscar Madison, straight off of his role in reruns of Sanford and Son and Baby I'm Back. Damon Wilson.
Could we make a case for Damon Wilson in the show Hall of Fame?
I'm going to say potentially. There's this. He was on an episode of Today's FBI. We said, Baby, I'm back. Sanford and Son. I think that's it. So that's four, but you know what? I think we can sneak him in. One of my inductees for March or whenever we're going to handle it, these guys don't even know who it is. And I think this person has been on less shows that we've covered because this is three for Damon Wilson. And I think the person I chose is at three as well, maybe four. Put a little asterisk there, but I'm not going to say who it is. All I know is one of these two folks, I'm going to blow their minds. The other one too, maybe, but I know one of these two characters is going to be like, oh my gosh, that came out of left field, but that is such a brilliant choice.
Okay, second week in April, we're going to do the Hall of Fame show. I'll time it exactly with WrestleMania. WWE Hall of Fame. There we go.
Get out of here, WrestleMania, brother.
Get out of here, Hulk. Nobody
I,
likes you.
I'm going to be there, and I'm going to be selling beer to all the Hulkamaniacs who are living the old days of 1985.
Boo!
Go buy my beer and don't look at
Boo!
the, and shut up and don't look at that commercial of me on the internet wearing a man thong on a wrecking ball. I don't know what I was doing there, brother.
You were drunk off your own beers, what she was doing.
I was drunk off of being an American.
There are some frequent flyers on this series. We're going to go over a few of them. Playing the police officer friend of Oscar, Murray Greshler, John Shuck.
Aw, shuck. Is he going to tell Damon Wilson about how outrageous those Starfleet regulations are?
Starfleet regulations, that's outrageous!
Starfleet regulations, brother, they're outrageous. And it should be noted that the original Murray Greshler in the original Odd Couple was played by Al Molinaro. You remember him from Happy Days. He ran the diner after Pat Morita hightailed it to Mr. T and Tina, I'm guessing? I think so.
Playing a character named Cicely Pigeon is Sheila Anderson, best known for, well, her IMDb page is very thin, but I just want to say the Yum Yum Girls. And also something called Dangerous Curves?
Ooh, dangerous curves.
Some sort of relation to her is Gwendolyn Pigeon, played by Renalda Douglas, who has had a more fruitful career with episodes of What's Happening, Simon and Simon, Growing Pains, and the TV movie I Dream of Jeannie 15 years later.
Ooh, somebody say growing pains? Alan, okay, we've had enough trouble, okay, with the British whammy and the Hulkster. Please get out of here, Alan. Well, I just said growing pains. Chico said it. I want to come here.
Listen here, brother. You're not a real American. Get your ass back to Canada.
Oh.
What the hell was that? Was that a moan of death?
That was Alan trying to boo.
That's how Canadians boo. Okay.
That's his way of saying boo earns.
Playing Roy in this series, Bart Braverman. You remember him from several seasons of Vegas and several more seasons of The Match Game.
And we talked about him in Look Well.
Luke Whale, the best unsold pilot ever. Fight me.
Playing Maria, Liz Torres, best known for her role as Mahalia Sanchez in The John Larroquette Show.
But she goes back even further than that. I was just watching an episode of Tattletales earlier this week, and she was on the panel with her husband or boyfriend or whoever she was seeing at that time. And she was credited from being on a show that we referenced. I think we talked about this when we did Chicken Soup, because it was in one of the articles I read. She was on Phyllis, what was supposed to be the big hit of 1975, and spoiler, it was not.
And then we have in the role of Mona, Jo Marie Payton, aka Harriet Winslow.
Now, hold on a second. Was Harriet Winslow the boss of the show?
Yes! Mona, where's Angela?
Tell Angela that I'm going to be kicking a field goal for the Eagles. Angela. By the way, this episode's being released the day after the Super Bowl, so we don't know if that was a reference to something Jake Elliott may or may not have done at the Super Bowl.
The Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl. Doesn't matter. I said it here. It's not going to be edited. I stay true to my word. Just saying this right now. Saquon Barkley is going to have 200 yards combined between rushing and receiving. Book it, take it to the bank, enjoy your winnings. Well, you can't really enjoy your winnings because this is coming out after the Super Bowl, so tough crap, folks. I'm sorry.
Let's see what sort of shenanigans that the Odd Couple has gotten themselves in the 80s. Now, it should be noted that if you're a big fan of the Odd Couple, some of these episodes are going to sound very familiar because, and here's the kicker, this show was produced in the middle of a writer's strike.
Oh gosh, I hope that they redo the password episode, but now they're doing like password plus and the clue Aristophanes comes up. Classic moment, but I would just love to see that. They're on the set of this generic password plus, and there's like Tom Kennedy or fake ass Tom Kennedy, and they're playing password plus with. I think it would be great if they actually had like Jack Klugman and Tony Randall being the celebrities on this password, but that's pie. Well, it's brilliant casting if you think about it, but I know it's like total pie in the sky.
And you know what? Because the executive producer is Gary Marshall along with Anthony Marshall, they could totally get away with it. Because he's basically stealing from himself.
Yeah, he did that all the damn time, Gary Marshall.
Let's talk about these episodes. Episode 1, The Ides of April. A distraught Felix is summoned to the IRS office for what turns out to be a minor concern, but ends up accidentally convincing them to audit Oscar.
Is it too early in the show to put Susan in here?
Playing the role of Miss Gibbs, Esther Roll, Flo Evans from Good Times.
I bet you I know what the reaction to seeing her on set was. Damn! Damn! Damn!
Episode 2, The Hustler. Felix asks Oscar to help him raise money for his theater group, and what they do is have a casino night. Oscar wins all the money and intends to use it to play in a pool game with a guy he played with earlier. He promises to donate the winnings to the group. Thing is, when he goes to play him, he discovers that the guy is a great player who tricked him, and he doesn't know if he can beat him.
If I'm a betting man, and I do not say that as a pun, but looking at this capsule, does this not sound like it is perfectly written for Jack Klugman? The gambling and then trying to make more money by re-gambling what he won. This has to be recycled.
It is. The first 8 episodes are recycled. Playing Mrs. Bakerman in this episode, Florida Freebus, and yes, you are not imagining things. That is the same character she played when she was on the Bob Newhart show.
We mentioned her about a month and a half, 2 months ago, when we talked about My Mother the Car. She appeared on an episode of that. She's probably best known for playing Winifred Gillis, Dobie Gillis's mother, on The Many Loves of Dobie Gillis, on top of playing Mrs. Bakerman on the Barbara Newhart show.
And you mentioned this guy earlier, Mike, playing a guy named George, Al Molinaro.
And not even the last name worth mentioning. Playing Side Pocket Sidney, I wonder who he is. Maybe he's the hustler. It's Ben Powers from Good Times, Keith Anderson. And Moochie on the new Mike Hammer. Not Butchie, Moochie. Didn't we have a Moochie or something similar where we invoked Vic Dunlop like last week or 2 weeks ago. It wouldn't have been last week because that was all football. But like 2 weeks ago, didn't we have a character that sort of sounded like Butchie and maybe was close to Moochie?
Something like that.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm not going totally crazy.
Episode 3, Francis moves in. Felix's ex-wife moves in, interrupting the weekly poker game. Playing said role of Felix's ex-wife, Telma Hopkins, Aunt Rachel herself.
Oh man, so we have Harriet and we have Aunt Rachel.
If I'm not mistaken, smack dab in the middle of her role on Tony Orlando and Dawn and a role on Give Me a Break.
No, no, you're forgetting something. This would have been just after Bosom Buddies. So it would have been between Bosom Buddies and Give Me a Break.
Episode 4, That Was No Lady. Felix falls for the girlfriend of a boxing great, KOing Oscar's hopes of writing a book on the champion. Playing the boxing great, Moses Brown, Ernie Hudson.
Now, you want to talk about a person who might be making a Hall of Fame case. We've talked about Ernie Hudson on quite a few things. I'm not going to go through them, but I'm pretty sure this is close to, if not at least the fifth time we've talked about him.
Episode 5, Brother, Can You Spare a Job? At Felix's prodding, Oscar demands a raise and is immediately promoted into the ranks of the unemployed.
I wonder if this person is maybe the boss at the place that eventually hires him and fires him. This is just mind blowing if it is. Playing Doug Richards. I didn't even know this person ever did acting. Roy Firestone. The same Roy Firestone who hosted Up Close on ESPN back in the 80s and 90s. I did not know he did any sort of acting. And taking a look at his career, he was in Jerry Maguire. I'm actually not surprised he was in Jerry Maguire. And he was in Arliss. I know he was in an episode of Married with Children where Al Bundy dreams that he becomes a big star after getting hit in the head. He gets a concussion or something, and he ends up being interviewed by Roy Firestone. But this is actually the second thing that he appeared on, Roy Firestone. He was on something called The Greatest. I'm guessing it might be about Muhammad Ali in 1977 as an uncredited TV reporter. But just quickly looking at his IMDb, Webster. Who's on Webster, for heaven's sakes, for an episode? The new Mike Hammer, The Paper Chase. That would have been Paper Chase during the Showtime years. Misfits of Science? We didn't talk about him on Misfits of Science, I don't remember. It's Gary Shandling's show, Coach. I mean, seriously, he's got like a ton of credits. Dave's World, Everybody Loves Raymond, The Simpsons, Spin City, Joanna Man. He was in Joanna Man.
Yes. Now hold on a second. I only hope on Spin City he shared a scene with Richard Kind. Could you imagine?
Can televisions handle Richard Kind and Roy Firestone in the same frame? I don't think so.
Another name, playing Brenda Gibson, Judy Pace, from Peyton Place and The Flying Nun, The Young Doctors, Bewitched, one of the lost faces in black television, I think.
She's got a very diverse career from what I've seen here. It looks like she was in some blaxploitation movies back in the 70s. And on top of the TV shows Chico mentioned, she was on Carib for an episode. I wonder if it was the episode that aired on my birthday. If it is, that's just absolutely bonkers. Oh, why do I mention Carib? Because it was
A Quinn Martin production.
Oh no, it aired 2 weeks after my birth date, March 17th of 1975.
Oh, I bet you though it was a five canon episode.
There's no Carib out there, so I can't really judge. I mean, there's an open on YouTube, and I think there's an episode. There's not the whole run, which is 13 episodes, I believe. But the Carib theme is on the Quinn Martin Collection, Volume 1. It's a good theme. It's very Caribbean, as you might expect with the name like Carib.
Episode 6 The New Car. When Oscar wins a new car with Felix supplying the answers, they are persuaded to share it but find themselves squabbling over it.
Quick question. Does this take place in New York City?
Yes.
Who the heck needs a car in New York City?
Wait, did you say
New York City!
I'm gonna throw my friggin' earphones to the ground. Damn, I walked into that. And you did in unison too. That was very nice. Yes, I said New York City.
Episode 7 The Cordon Blues. A socialite thinks Felix has the panache to manage her new restaurant. Playing a lady by the name of Beatrice Gretchen Weiler. No longer with us, but known for roles in Dallas, Remington Steele, Judging Amy, and Designing Women. And future entry, Babes.
No, no, I don't want to cover Babes. No,
Well, guess what,
no.
Mike? We're going to be covering it later this year.
I figured as much, but no.
But Mike, it has Nidra Vols on it. You love Nidra Vols.
But I hate that show.
I hate it too, but Mike, you're going to talk about Nidra Vols. I mean, aren't you happy about that?
Now I'll tell you what I'm happy about on this episode playing Davies. I think this guy is starting to build a resume, just my opinion. Henry Pollock II
Oh, yes.
from Webster, Double Talk, but also When Things Were Rotten. He played the Sheriff of Nottingham. And he played it beautifully. That's one of my favorite things to watch on weekends now because Catchy Comedy reruns it at like 1:30 in the morning. Totally underrated. Oh, and maybe sometime in the future we might revisit that show. Just saying.
Hmm.
Episode 8 The Odd Triangle. Felix suspects the model Oscar is dating is using his roommate to get to Felix and his influence as a fashion photographer. Playing Sandra, who I'm guessing is that model, Deborah Pratt. Director, writer, producer, singer, dancer, actress, and voice of Ziggy on Quantum Leap,
Yes. I believe she was married to Donald Belisario.
which would explain a lot, especially why she was producer of Tequila and Benetti and The Net, which was terrible.
Oh, I forgot about The Net. They adapted that from the
Yes.
Sandra Bullock movie. I remember seeing promos of that on Sunday Night Heat. It was awful.
Yeah, with Brooke Langton in the Sandra Bullock role.
Confirmed she was the spouse of Donald Belisario.
Episode 9 Opening Night. Felix helps Oscar review a Broadway play whose backer insists on a favorable notice, or else. Don't know if this is the backer, but playing Tony S. Carmen Argenziano. No longer with us, but known for roles in the Godfather movies.
Another name we have in this episode, playing Fred, Felix's lab assistant. I mean, that's literally his name here. Fred, Felix's lab assistant, is Billy Van Zandt. He's known more of a producer and a writer. He wrote on 22 episodes of Newhart. He produced 87 episodes of The Hughleys, produced on Martin. He's more of a behind the scenes type of person, but still quite a big name.
Episode 10 Security. In the aftermath of a robbery, Felix gets a guard dog and looks for an apartment with tighter security. Episode 11 Bachelor of the Year. Felix and Oscar are pitted against each other in a magazine's Man of the Year contest.
That sounds like another recycled Odd Couple synopsis. I seem to remember something like that on the original Odd Couple.
Episode 12 A Grave for Felix. The money Felix entrusts to Oscar for a cemetery plot deposit becomes ready cash for Oscar's gambling.
Okay, that definitely sounds like a recycled script Given what we know about Jack Klugman and gambling, I'd almost put money on that. But we got a character. There's no character name, sadly, but he's played by Nathan Cook, who you might know from Hotel, and also a pretty darn good pyramid player back in the 80s.
Oh, he was very good. Speaking of Pyramid, how come that doesn't have like a fast channel or is rerunning anywhere those 80s episodes?
I blame Sony, but also I don't think you're going to get all the pyramids because I know Orion did the pyramid with John. Oh, okay. Oh, I'll say it. John Davidson. He did the pyramid with that guy back in 90 and 91. So I wonder if there's a little bit of like weird ownership issues. But also, Nathan Cook was on several weeks of Match Game Hollywood Squares Hour.
Yep.
Are we just gonna overlook his 40 episodes of White Shadow?
I think we just did.
Episode 13, My Strife in Court. When Felix tries to give away a spare concert ticket, he and Oscar are charged with ticket scalping, for which Felix wants to fight in court.
Well, if this was 2025, we would revolve around reselling Taylor Swift tickets.
Wait, did you say Taylor Swift, girlfriend of Super Bowl 59 loser Travis Kelce?
Or depending on if you're listening to this, the girlfriend of three straight time Super Bowl champion Travis Kelce.
No, I have made it known that the Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl. Do not put this little Maloika on me. No. He's won two Super Bowls, but Eagles are flying high this year. Fly, Eagles, fly, baby.
Name in this episode, playing a policeman, Ernie Sabella. Lion King, It's Your Move, Saved by the Bell. We know this guy.
But hey, that's another show we might revisit down the line. It's Your Move.
Episode 14, Oscar dates Felix's Francis. Oscar agrees to accompany Felix's ex-wife to a boring lecture. The unexpected happens when Oscar and Francis decide to begin dating. Ooh. Selma Hopkins returns as Frances Unger. Murray's hot date is episode 15. Oscar gives the household money to charity. A prostitute he hires as Murray's date for the civil servant.
Boy, that's one way of giving your money to charity.
Playing charity, Kelly Bishop, who is on all 154 episodes of Gilmore Girls as Emily Gilmore. Episode 16, The Perils of Pauline. Murray's palm reading points to bad luck down the line for Felix, beginning with Oscar ruining his roommate's chances to enter a photo exhibition. Playing Doris Roberts.
We do have another name, though. No character listed, unfortunately. He's played by Billy Sands. We just talked about him in the beginning of January because he played a tailor on an episode of CPO Sharkey, but also we tied it in because he was Private Dino Paparelli on 139 episodes of the Phil Silver Show, a military themed show just like CPO Sharkey, but also he played Tinker Bell on 138 episodes of McHale's Navy, another military themed show. He's that guy from that military themed TV comedy. We have yet another unnamed character in this episode, played by Peter Van Norden. We've definitely talked about him in the past because I remember that name, but I also remember when we talked about him, we talked about maybe his best known role, at least to me and Greg. He played John Sununu in The Naked Gun 2.5.
You know, Naked Gun 2.5, that doesn't get enough love.
It really doesn't. I mean, it's not as good as the original, but it's leaps and bounds better than 33 and a third.
But 33 and a third had the best ending of any of the Naked Gun movies. Because remember when Jane delivered the baby?
That did have the best ending, I'll give you that. But also, let's remember, 33 and third came out right about the time O.J. Simpson had a little incident. That's all I'm going to say about that. That was summer of 94 it came out.
Penultimate episode, episode 17, The Only Way to Fly. A crazed man throws a brick through Felix's studio window and it's wrapped with a message threatening Felix for dating his wife. And the last one, The Night Stalker. OJ's pals surprise him with a word processor, but Oscar can't compose without Pauline, his trusty typewriter. He named his typewriter Pauline.
Maybe he was such a big fan of Donkey Kong because that game just came out.
That's the show. They popped it in on Fridays in 1982 on ABC in between Benson and The Greatest American Hero. It could have beaten The Powers of Matthew Starr, no problem, but you know it was on CBS on Friday nights. It's them good old boys, the Dukes of Hazzard.
Was Bo and Luke still on the show, or did they go to Coy and Vance yet?
No, that was 83 when they went to Chloe and Vance. It was still Bo and Luke. I think we know how the numbers are going to look, but I do have quite a bit of ratings here. And consistently, this show was in the 40s. I've got maybe 8 or 9 weeks of ratings here, and I don't see anything higher than like 39 or so, 38, but I don't see anything below 49. So it was sort of mid. It was there. It just didn't move the meter that much. Just taking a look at a few weeks that I have handy, right after Thanksgiving of 1982, out of 68 shows, it came in at 45th, beating shows like Knight Rider, Chips, Different Strokes, Ripley's Believe It or Not, and Taxi, admittedly last season of Taxi, Cheers, first season of Cheers, Give Me a Break, Silver Spoons, Fame, Joni Loves Chachi, St. Elsewhere. So that's like right at the top of the bottom two-thirds. Not really good.
Another thing that this show had going against it is this aired in an age where what was airing in syndication? The Original Odd Couple.
The week of Thanksgiving of 1982, out of 68 shows, it came in at a three-way tie for 47th with show we just mentioned last week of all things, Father Murphy, and Give Me a Break. And again, it beat St. Elsewhere. Cheers is actually the worst rated show that week, believe it or not. How weird does that sound, saying Cheers was the worst rated show at all? I mean, we know what it went through in its first season, but given it lasted 11, that's kind of weird.
The reason it lasted past the first season was because it was like a favorite of critics.
Oh, I know it was, but still, just again, looking at this and seeing 68th out of 68 shows is Cheers, for people that don't know the history of Cheers, just sort of an anomaly of sorts. Some more weeks of ratings real fast. The week before the week of Thanksgiving, so we're actually going back in order here. Out of 70 shows, it came in at 45th. So again, right at the two-thirds mark. Not great, but not necessarily deserving of cancellation horrible. And then the week before that, boy, I'm just going like consecutive weeks here. That previous week, 44th out of 65 shows. And wouldn't it be a surprise if this was the week before? Well, son of a gun, it was the last week of October, 40th out of 75 shows. Like I said, you see a pattern of consistency here. It's in the 40s, and that's out of generally 65 to 75 shows. So that's not great. Maybe viewers saw through this, I don't want to say charade, but given the writer's strike and given them recycling scripts, I bet people said, hey, I saw that 10 years earlier or 8 years earlier on the original Odd Couple. And as we mentioned, going through these capsules, you could definitely see Jack Klugman in some of the writing of this, especially with the gambling. I'm surprised horses didn't come into play in this series, since Jack Klugman and Oscar Madison loved playing the horses.
Wait, what did you say?
He was playing the ponies. Is that better?
Pony.
Oh, now you're going to do that. Really? So either I invoke Francesa or I invoke the dearly departed Jim Williams. So pick your poison. Do I say horses or do I say pony? Equines. What are you going to do with that?
In all seriousness, I found a critical note from the New York Times. What may be surprising is how little of the spine of the show has changed. The dialogue has been updated a little, but the plots are essentially the same. The new odd couple bounces along nicely. It adds nothing new to the craft of situation comedy, but it does provide employment and a good showcase for talented black actors who generally don't have an easy time of it on television these days. Of all the shows that aired in that season, The New Odd Couple placed 60th. It was taken on and off through the entire season and generally, like you said, Mike, was mid. But reruns did air on BET in the early 90s, and TV Land occasionally aired the reruns when they were airing reruns of the original 1970s series. It was never released on home video, but all 18 episodes are available online if you know where to look.
Well, what can we say about the new Odd Couple? It was certainly no new Love American Style, that's for damn sure.
Oh, that's a high bar. It's not the new Love American Style. Don't go crazy there, Greg.
Remember, me and the G-Man just agreed that it was okay.
I get that, but also I do need to applaud you that for the second week in a row there's a G-Man reference.
But all in all, for a reboot, it wasn't bad. It wasn't out of this world. The New Odd Couple, it was just a thing on TV.
You can find us at our website, itwasathingontv.com, on Facebook at It Was a Thing on TV Podcast, and elsewhere at It Was a Thing on TV. You can find us on any podcast player, and we're also on YouTube, where you can subscribe to our channel to keep up to date with our releases, including what's coming up next time.
It is the first television appearance of a man who would make many more television appearances. We'll find out who that person is and what he's doing with his family in Dallas next time right here on It Was a Thing on TV. For Greg, for Mike, I'm Chico. Thank you ever so much for listening. Please be kind to one another, and we will see you for the next one.
Wow!
Friday. Vincent thinks he's got a deal, but
Purchased a condo and a kit.
then